Well, good evening and welcome to Upper School Parent Orientation. I want to say thank you so much. It's really actually awesome to see people in person. And in fact, some of you look so fancy. This might be your first time out of the house in a little while. So I'm really proud of you. It would have been so easy to tell your kids you're going to orientation and then skip it and just go out. So thank you. It means the world to me that you actually showed up. So thank you so much. If we haven't met before, my name is Megan Strange, and it's my pleasure, my honor to be the Upper School Principal at North Cap Christian School. And I want to let you know that at 8 o'clock this morning, before the chairs were taken down, cleaned, and put back up later this afternoon after volleyball practice, at 8 o'clock this morning, there were about 160 faculty and staff that sat in this room, Amy Wallace over there with her piano, and just led us in a time of worship and prayer over the school year. And so I want to let you know, even the actual chair that you're sitting in has already been prayed over. So God has incredible things in store for this school year. I think we are more grateful than ever, one day at a time. You know, we're going to just value all the days that we can have in person, whatever that looks like. And you know, even we've all shared. We've said, well, gosh, we don't know what this year looks like. Well, if we were honest with ourselves, we didn't know what any of the other years were going to look like either, right? So God has just gratefully reminded us that He is in control, and He has a plan for all of this. So for you guys that are here in person, for you guys that are joining us on the live stream, we believe that God has an incredible year in store here at North Cap Christian School. So thank you for trusting us with your kids. I would like to take just a quick moment. I won't be able to see the live stream hands, but for the folks that are here in person, if you are here on behalf of a ninth grader, if you would just raise your hand where you are. Awesome. There you go. Yep, her son survived ninth grade last year, so she's good. All right, 10th grade. There you go. Same mom. Good. If you're here for 11th grade, raise your hand. Awesome. Some of you guys, I cannot believe it. But and then if you are here on behalf of a senior, raise your hand. Look at that. All right. I love it. And then, if you don't mind, if you are new, if your family is new to North Cobb Christian School, if you don't mind, would you just please stand where you are? We want to give you an appropriate welcome. Yes. And y'all keep standing a quick second. Let me ask our returners that are in the room, before these folks depart tonight, will you please just make sure they have a phone number or an email address so that they know who to reach out to if they have a question about something? So awesome. We're so happy to have you guys. Y'all can grab a seat. Thank you. But thank you again. Really appreciate folks coming tonight and tuning in. We had a great day today with our upper school faculty and staff, just kind of diving in and getting ready. We spent some time going through the actual upper school roster. Over the weekend, I was looking at something in there and noticed several of our teachers were already in that Google spreadsheet. Some that have been with us for a while, they know where I hide all the goodies. And I texted them. I said, hey, I see y'all in the roster. You know what their response was? Just taking some time to pray over the students. They were just kind of diving into it for that. They're not worried about who's in their math class or who's in their English class, but just praying about who the Lord has for us. And I want to share a story with you. Back in the spring of 1996, fortunately everyone in the room here is familiar with the 90s. Sometimes I tell stories like that, and the kids look at me like, oh yeah, I heard about that back in history. So they cover that there. But in the spring of 1996, I was a senior in high school, and my English teacher was Miss Douglas, and she was about this tall. She was a very small, dainty, petite lady. The poor woman had me for English in 10th grade and 12th grade. And I'm sure she was so thrilled to see my name on her roster again in 12th grade. And in the spring of 12th grade, one day after class, I stayed after, and we were chatting about something, probably something I hadn't turned in or something like that. And she was asking me, she said, you know, Megan, what do you see for yourself as you get ready to go off to college? What are you thinking about doing with your life? And I didn't come to know the Lord until summer before 11th grade of high school. So I can look at high school in two pretty distinct halves. And by that point of my senior year, I had already committed to play basketball at the University of Memphis, a great way to pay for college. And I knew that I was going down that path. And honestly, what I told her, I said, you know, all along the way, I've had so many teachers and coaches that have invested in my life. I really feel like God might be leading me to be a teacher or coach. And I'll never forget, small little Miss Douglas said, you know, Megan, I could really see you being a high school principal. And I remember walking out of her classroom thinking, who says that to a kid? Like, Why would a person want to do that? Like, where in the world would something like that come from? It was probably after editing all of my papers, she was like, that is such a terrible thing. And so she just planted that idea. You know, Megan, I could see you being a high school principal one day. You know, I stepped back from that many years later, and I look back, my high school principal really made a huge investment in my life. To this day, he and his family are still an integral part of my family's life. One of the first Christian leaders that I knew. I went to a public school, and it was so interesting. Just over the course of college, as I pursued a degree in education, at every turn, whether it was an internship, a practicum, something like that, they kept assigning me to like administrative types of things. I got in all my student teaching. I'm certified to teach. But they kept assigning me to all these administrative types of things. And so after I graduated from college, I moved to Ackworth. I was in full-time student ministry for about 5 years. And then I got a phone call one day about the fact they had this opening at North Cobb Christian. And they wanted to start a student life program at North Cobb Christian. So I came over here in the fall of 2005 to be the director of student life. And a couple of years later, I had the privilege of becoming the upper school principal. And you want to know that the very first day that I sat in that office, window number 2 from the left there, very first day I sat in that office, I wrote a letter to Miss Douglas and told her how much I appreciated her seeing something in me and speaking that over me. But I got to tell you, that was a nerve-wracking letter to write because I'm still a little iffy on the commas and stuff like that. I think it's just where you take a breath. But I saw her a few months later, and she seemed really pleased to have gotten the note. So I think what I love the most about high school, Mr. Konchak, our middle school principal, is back there. We got both his sons in high school now. We're going to take great care of Chase and Blake. In middle school, they do so many things to help kids understand a little bit more about the gifts and talents that God has given to them. They do all kinds of different surveys and assessments. So they come out of middle school knowing a little bit about that. Well, in high school, we feel like they begin to learn a lot more about what it is that they're very passionate about. And where your gifts and talents collide with what you're passionate about, we feel like that is what God is calling you to spend your life doing. So when we answer that question, what do you feel like God's calling you to do with your life? We want to help our kids identify that while they're in high school. Will they all have that perfectly figured out? No, they will not. So there are going to be plenty of kids that walk across the stage at graduation so set. This is exactly what I want to spend my life doing. There are kids at graduation that are walking across the stage going, how in the world did I arrive at this place? And everything in between. And those outcomes are totally fine. God is working. He is planting seeds. And so that's one thing we want to help you with. Also, obviously, in the culture that we're living in right now, not just in COVID world, but our culture in particular, I saw this great quote. Some of you may be familiar with Ravi Zacharias, one of the greatest apologists of our generation, passed away earlier this summer. His autobiography is called Walking from East to West, just talking about growing up in India and then ultimately having this ministry in the United States and Canada. And this is what he said in his book. He said, the lines, when you think about our culture, the lines have been clearly drawn, and it's up to the thinking Christian to train the mind, to take seriously the questioner, and to respond with intelligence and relevance. And we believe truly that we are training up Christian thinkers at North Cobb Christian School. Because in the end, I love what we do in the math class. I love what we do in the English classroom. But in the end, those aren't the things that are going to make an eternal difference. But what is going to make an eternal difference is young men and young women who know that their identity is in Christ and their confidence is in the fact that Jesus Christ created them with a purpose for their life, to fulfill a greater purpose. Bob Goff, in his recent book, Dream Big, if you haven't read Love Does, and everybody always start with those, but keep on reading into Dream Big, he said, we're in a constant state of becoming the next version of us, and that's a good thing. Remember that on this journey of discovering and launching your dream, you have a ton of agency over your circumstances. You can't change what happened yesterday or 5 minutes ago, but tomorrow is all yours. It's up to you to decide what happens next. And that's one of the things that our kids will hear me say a ton. Parker Smith is our student life director. A lot of different folks are going to take this stage in whatever chapel is exactly going to look like this year and remind our students, God has a plan for your life. God designed you on purpose to do something for His glory. And our theme verse this year, I love it. I think it's a great verse in light of where we are. Our academic team was meeting. It seems like it was maybe right after spring break, although maybe it was 13 weeks of spring break or not in your house. But it seems like it was kind of early April. We were meeting up in the Flex for our academic council meetings. And usually Mr. Klingman says, hey, do you guys have an idea for a theme verse? And every once in a while, we're kind of batting around some different ideas for things for a theme verse. But Mr. Klingman said, I just really feel strongly about 2 Timothy 1:7. For God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. And when he shared that verse that day, it was just so evident that we felt like the Lord was going to use that verse as a banner over our school year. And so that's one of the things. We don't want to be reckless. We don't want to be crazy. We want to be very wise. But this year, we are going to have to, on a daily, maybe moment-by-moment basis, choose faith over fear. And we're really going to lean into what does it mean to have that spirit of power and of love and of self-control. When we think about what we're doing in these high school days under the umbrella of discipleship, we're helping our kids learn how to lead themselves, right? You can't ever lead anyone else until you lead yourself. After that, once they're learning how to lead themselves, maybe they can lead others. And then the third part of that is moving them to leading other leaders. And when we think about that verse, I think that another thing kind of came from Bob Goff. These are some great questions that we kind of wrestle with. And you can wrestle with it in the context of that verse. Who am I, right? If I'm a child of God, I've been given that power and love and self-control. Why do I think what I think on a daily basis as I go in my head? Why do I think what I think? And then the last one, why do I do what I do? Who am I? Why do I think what I think? And why do I do what I do? Well, it comes from what do I believe? And if I believe that God has given me not a spirit of fear, but instead of power and of love and of self-control, I'm much more equipped to walk confidently into whatever it is that the Lord has for my life. And so that's what we want to really equip our students to do this year. And, this year we released our welcome home plans. And tonight you guys have come in. How many of you, this is your first time on campus since March? I'm curious. All right, several of you have interviewed in the meantime, so it's been good to see you. But several of you kind of the first time. Like I said, when these teachers were in here, there were a few of them. It was kind of their first time. Well, I'm so grateful for the hard work on behalf of so many in our school that went into these welcome home plans. And I do hope you've read them carefully. Also, because you're the parent of a high schooler, I hope your child has read them very carefully. If you've been around for any length of time in our upper school, you know that we feel really strongly in student responsibility. And so that's a great way, is giving them an opportunity to read through this and understand what the expectations are. We took our seniors rafting last Friday. It was an absolute blast. We had a great time. I see a few parents in here that are smiling because their child didn't drown. They thought they might, and they didn't. So we're just celebrating that. But the kids they were in great spirits, and we were laughing, and we were smiling, and we were enjoying each other's company. And most of the kids said, it's just cool to do something kind of normal. And so we're going to ease into that. We're going to do that wisely. But there are a couple things. Obviously, I want you to notice that we talked about God's Word long before we talked about COVID-19 protocols. But I do want to take just a couple of minutes and talk about some of the COVID-19 protocols here at North Cobb Christian School. Probably one of the big phrases that you'll hear from me this year, and we've teased about this with the teachers, is as of right now. Right? All along the way, it's been unprecedented times. I was laughing with a friend at Target a couple of weeks ago. We saw something that said, man, what I wouldn't give for just some good old precedented times, just a little something normal. But why are we engaging these COVID-19 protocols? Because we have an incredible opportunity to love our neighbor. We have an incredible opportunity to have school on our campus. We know that's not the case for everyone in our area. We also know there's a lot of families that are at North Cobb Christian now because they wanted to choose on-campus school for their children. What a gift, y'all. We are at a point right now where we are able to invest in students that otherwise might not have come. There's a lot of families that I've interviewed over the last several weeks. They say, hey, we've been thinking about North Cobb Christian for years. Some of them, they've toured before. I've had some, I've interviewed them before, but it took the circumstances to nudge them into saying, hey, now is the time. Matthew 22, starting in verse 37, reminds us that the first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then the second one is like it. It says to love your neighbor as yourself. So when we talk about things like wearing masks, when we talk about things like helping wipe down the tables at the end of class, when we talk about some of those spacing out when we go into the cafeteria to get our food, I think the easiest way for us to help frame that for upper school students is this is a wonderful practical opportunity for us to love our neighbor. I have a 6th grade daughter and a 2nd grade son, and for a while, as we go in Target, we've been putting our masks on, and I've been reminding them of two things. We're going to do everything we can to love our neighbor and everything we can to make sure that college football can happen this fall. And that's something that they can wrap their heads around. All right, so how can your family help? Couple of key things. One, we really need every family to make sure their child takes their temperature before they leave their house in the morning. We're going to take their temperature here at school, but it sure would save a wrinkle in your morning's plans if y'all take care of that. If your child has a fever of over 100, just keep them at home. Send us a note and let us know. I already know some of you guys are wondering, well, in that case, could they switch to virtual? We can work that out. We have some really good ideas on how that's going to work. But for right now, take their temperature before they come to school. We will take their temperature when they get to school. Whether your child comes at like right before school starts, whether they come early to work out, whether they come early to grab a biscuit before school, we're taking everyone's temperature, faculty and staff included, before they enter the building. So that's just a great opportunity for us there. And parents, if you happen to have some availability in the morning, we need your help. This is going to take a small army in order to make this happen, but it's worth it for every single day that we can be on campus. And so we're particularly in need of folks from in the 7:20 to 8:15 a.m. window in the morning. There was a sign-up genius that was sent around. I'll include the link in my email as well, but we need folks to help us with that. Another thing that we really could use your help with is even for your own family in making wise choices where you're going and what you're doing. And I'll give an analogy. The NBA bubble, it seems to be working fairly well, right? So maybe we have an NCCS bubble. We don't want any of the craziness they're having in Major League Baseball, all right? So help us out with that. We really want to encourage our kids. Make wise choices. I think there's a lot of things that we can do just based on kind of being the North Cobb Christian bubble as it relates to things like retreat, if your family is comfortable with that, as it relates to sports, as it relates to other activities. So I want to be wise with that. What measures are we taking? Today we spent some time with the teachers talking about things like seating charts. Well, why do you need a seating chart in high school? These kids are a little bit older. Well, you need a seating chart in case someone is positive. You need to look back. You know, we have all learned lots of phrases in this. Contact tracing is another fun one with that. But our teachers have some really creative ideas on how we can do that. Do our best to social distance in the classrooms, do our best in the hallways, things like that. Face coverings. Our kids know, if you've been sharing the documents with them, our kids know that we're going to wear face coverings as we come into the building in the morning, as we change classes, as we come down into the gym for lunch. Keep it up until you sit down and you're eating. All right, when you get in class, if you're more comfortable, you can keep it up. If you'd like to take it down, you can take it down once you get seated. In fact, when we walked into this room this morning, we had a lot of folks that wore their masks into the building, and then maybe they took it down once they got seated. I think it's very important for each upper school family to clearly communicate with their child what they would like for them to do in those moments where they can take it off or leave it on. We had some kids on the rafting trip the other day. They were very comfortable to keep it on. I could tell their parents had told them, keep it on. I don't want to see a picture of you with it off, that sort of thing, right? So, but any other time that social distancing can't be achieved, we're going to ask them to keep a face covering. We will have buffs for all of our high school students, and we've laughed a lot about buff up or buff down, but students can wear a mask, they can wear a buff. All we ask is that it's either the North Cobb Christian buff that we issue them. We have North Cobb Christian masks in the school store, or just a solid color mask or buff. We're not going to police sayings and designs and all that sort of thing, so we'll just keep them solid color. Somebody sent me a note yesterday. They were asking, how is lunch going to work with social distancing? Our facilities team set up this gym on Friday with like all the furniture they have in the building, and they have determined that we can, with social distancing, seat 275 people in here for lunch. All the bleachers pushed in, things like that. What we're also going to do is we are going to take our 9th graders and put them in the lower school cafeteria during lunch. That actually creates a really neat community for the 9th graders because there's lots of things they're trying to figure out, and they can figure that out in that space. And our lunch monitors for the 9th grade cafeteria will be 9th grade teachers. So if you need to talk to Miss Swank about a paper you're doing or Mr. Huff about something we're doing in government, it'll be easy to catch up because you know he's got lunch duty on Tuesdays or things like that. Chapel. The first day of school, we're going to have chapel, and only the seniors will be in here. The first day of school, the seniors, the guys usually wear Hawaiian shirts. The girls like to wear black dresses. So they can do that on the first day of school. They're going to be in here. Everybody else, we're going to live stream chapel into their first period. As the weeks unfold, we'll mix which group comes in here, which group stays in the classroom. We've all been doing this for church from home. We'll just ask that they not wear their pajamas like some of you might be doing. And then also, if you don't mind, please make sure that your child always brings a bottle to school because we have turned off the part of the water fountains that you drink out of, but the water bottle fillers are still open for business. And I think if I could pick one word for all of us for this year, it would be grace. Right? Grace in our conversation, grace in our emails, back and forth. Grace that there may be things in your home that we're not aware of. There may be things in the homes of your kids' friends that you may not be aware of. And so we're going to be flexible. We're going to love our neighbor well by showing grace this year. I think you can trust that we love your kids, we love your family, we love our faculty and staff, and we love their families. And most of the rest of it, honestly, is kind of small stuff, right? You drove by the prayer garden when you drove in tonight, or sometime you've driven on campus. We have buried 2 students and a very young teacher over the last several years. Most of it is small stuff. So I think we can stick together in that. We do spend a lot of time at North Cobb Christian School talking about a biblical worldview, and I know that I've spoken about that just a little bit. There's 4 distinct questions that come up in a person's life as they're forming their worldview. And it actually starts at North Cobb Christian down in K3, but it's reiterated and built on every year. First and foremost, origin. Where do I come from? Right? Everybody wants to know, where do I come from? What gives my life meaning? What differentiates good and evil? What happens to a human being when he or she dies? We're going to spend a lot of time specifically in our Bible classes, but in all of our classes. In fact, apologetics is our 12th grade Bible class. It's one of the ones that our alums always come back and they want to talk to Dr. Hedges. They look forward to the dialogue that's going to happen in that class. And then the Ravi Zacharias book I mentioned earlier, there's a quote and it's talking about apologetics, which in and of itself is really just defending your faith. That's what apologetics means, is defending your faith. But apologetics is not just giving answers to questions. It's also questioning people's questions, questioning their answers. And when you question someone's questions, you compel them to open up about his or her assumptions. Our assumptions must be examined. So a lot of times as we're walking through this, we were talking with our faculty today with the upper school group, and we're asking, what have you learned about God during this season? And for a lot of them, it was so cool because it's different qualities about God that they've always appreciated for themselves, like his mercy and his compassion, his patience. In this season, God has shown them, I should show that to other people sometimes too, right? So, but just a good reminder for us as we evaluate all those things. But how do we get there? It's a partnership. And that partnership is between your home, our school, and hopefully also your church. That's a pretty powerful partnership. When we talk about kingdom education, a godly home, a solid Bible-believing church, and a solid Christian school really give a child an opportunity to be successful in life. And we were looking at this morning. Between all of our upper school teachers, we have over 500 years of combined experience at North Cobb Christian alone. And that's not just Mr. Bittner. That's like everybody all combined together. And I hope he's watching from home. He would love that. But many other teachers who've taught other places but have just wanted to be at North Cobb Christian. We have 4 new teachers in the upper school this year. 2 of them taught in the middle school last year. So they're already part of our culture and Climate, and the other two new ones. I hope you get to hear their story. It's really powerful of how the Lord led their staff, their steps to come here. But I want you to know also, our faculty and staff have a very vested interest in this going well. Just in the 50 faculty and staff that touch upper school in some way, they have 50 of their own children that go to North Cobb Christian School, and there are 20 alums represented in that group. So they know what they're looking for here, and they know what they need to be prepared for there. And then across the upper school, when you look at the 160 some odd people that work at North Cobb Christian, 46 of the kids in the upper school belong to someone who works here in some capacity. So they have a vested interest in that going really well. And I think it would be lots of fun if we could meet these people. So I'm just going to kind of flash their pictures up on the screen, and then I'm going to email you these slides so you can pore over their names, pray for their families, and send them gift cards. It was the thoughts you were having back in the spring when you were like, oh my gosh, these teachers are so amazing. Act on it now. So this is our arts department. Mr. Matthew Hendricks is our arts director. Miss Wallace, Mrs. Baddock, Mr. Rupp, Mr. Godfrey, and Mrs. Brink. Awesome arts team there. Our Bible department head is Dr. Rachel Hedges. She's joined by Mrs. McCain, Mr. Schaefer, Mr. Falk, and Mrs. Jarvis. Our English department, our department head is Miss Sarah Cook, and she's joined by Mrs. Swank, Mr. Arnold, Mrs. Deal, and Mrs. Jarvis. Our foreign language department, Mrs. Dignon, Mrs. Peterson, and Miss Milligan. Our history department, Mrs. Beth Clark is our department head, and she's joined by Mr. Huff, Miss Stewart, and Mrs. Siller. These are friendly-looking people, don't you think? You know, you think about approaching them, good-looking guys and girls. In our math department, Mrs. Cassie Carr, our department head, joined by Mrs. Stout, Mrs. Hamilton, and Mr. Speck. In our PE and health department, also our exercise and sports science falls under this. Our department head is Coach Christy Sanders, and she's joined by Coach Mata and Coach Parker. In the science department, Mrs. Tracy Hollers is our department head, joined by Mr. Smith and Mr. McCormick, Mr. Speck and Mrs. Roop, and Mr. Lund. Our tech and business department, again led by Mrs. Cassie Carr, is their department head, along with Mr. Bittner, Mrs. Long, Mr. Moore, and that one on the end, he's a cutie. That's Mr. Strange. He just teaches the law class. And then for our overall school administration, most of you have had an opportunity to meet Mr. Todd Klingman, our head of school, and he's going to come share with us here in just a few minutes. For the upper school, if you really want an answer, the doer of the things is Mrs. Chris West. She knows all the things, serves everyone so well. If she sends you something, read it carefully. Also on the upper school staff, we have a new director of college counseling, Miss Kimberly Norfolk. Many of you have asked about Miss Bollinger. She is virtual Karen now as she lives in Texas, but she still loves our kids, loves you guys, so still email her as you normally would. Mrs. Phillips and Miss Pendley. Also, Miss Siller, our school counselor, Miss Baker, our new permanent sub, Miss Anderton, who runs our test room and supports the Moving Forward program, and Mrs. Sulis, one of our school nurses. In just a minute, you'll have a chance to hear from Mr. Parker Smith, our new student life director, coordinating our international student program. And this is a real prayer point. A number of our international students right now are trying to figure out, am I going to be able to come? Am I going to have to stay in my home country? Many of them have been at North Cobb Christian several years. They just want to get back to their North Cobb Christian family. So please join me in praying for them. Mrs. Peterson, our director of international students, and Mrs. Jarvis, our ELL teacher. In our athletic department, Coach Mike Timms is our AD. He is assisted by Coach Mata, Miss Dennis, Miss Walker, and Caitlin Huggins. Our Moving Forward program is led by Mrs. Amber Hawley. Our Moving Forward program serves students with learning differences. And we have a whole variety of different programs and accommodations they're able to offer. It's a great support. And she's assisted by Miss Smith and Miss Speck on the high school level. Our Academy directors, I'll talk a little bit more about this in just a moment, but for the Academy of the Arts, Mr. Hendricks. Business, Mr. Moore. Counseling, Ministry, and Education, Mr. Falk. Exercise and Sports Science, Coach Sanders. And for STEM, Mrs. Hollers. And then the final one would be our class sponsors. All those folks that you just saw those are the folks that they're the individual classroom teachers. The department heads help oversee the academic encouragement and accountability in those areas. But the class sponsors are the ones who help lead kind of the emotional, social portion of things. So Miss Beth Clark is our 9th grade lead class sponsor. We have several teachers who have a 9th grade advisory group, guys or girls that they meet with on a regular basis to invest in. But Miss Clark is kind of the point person for those 9th grade advisory groups, and a lot of fun activities. Miss Denyon for the 10th grade, Mr. Bittner for the 11th grade, and Mr. Schaefer for the 12th grade. So I just want you to see these folks. Like I said, I'm going to send this to you so you can look them over, and I hope that you'll pray for them. A couple key dates for you guys. Meet the Teacher is this Wednesday, August the 5th, and we're doing it a little bit different this year in order to accommodate some social distancing. From 1:30 to 2:30, we're going to be welcoming our new students to campus. Our admissions department will be helping with that as well. We have some hosts that will show them around. And then from 2:45 to 3:45, we'll be hosting our 9th graders on campus. What do I do if my child is new and in the 9th grade? You can come to either of them or both of them, whatever fits your schedule the best. And if you're the parent of a returning 10th through 12th grader who would be interested in coming on that day, all they need to do, or you need to do, is email Miss West, and we'll schedule them in. We're just going to try and make sure that we don't overload that time. But a lot of our kids, as they get older, Meet the Teacher is actually just hang out with your friend. So we would recommend they do that socially distanced and very safely elsewhere, keeping in mind the NCCS bubble and the good of all the people. So a couple of quick things. In the gym, PTF has asked me to let you know, and I sure hope Kim Poole is tuning in now live on the live stream. The school store will be available in here, and according to Kim Poole and the people she works with, there's some really cute and cool new items that high school students will enjoy. So that'll be set up in the gym. Also, if you like to take the pictures out front with like welcome to the new school year, that'll be set up during Meet the Teacher. So be sure and check that out. And then one other just small thing that used to happen at Meet the Teacher, it won't happen this year. We're not going to do lockers for upper school this year. It's really just kind of a congregating space. We don't have lockers out in the annex. And at the end of the year, usually Miss West and I just have to clean trash out of them. So when we move to the new upper school building in January, we're not going to have lockers, so we thought now would be a good time to practice that. Some of you are like, oh my goodness, my child's not going to remember anything ever. That's okay. They can bring it the next day. We'll figure it out. But so just a heads up on that. The first day of school is Tuesday, August 11th. I'm so grateful. When Mr. Klingman was looking at our schedule, he said, hey, I want to build in another day of professional development. We're going to take that Monday, that original first day of school, and really just one more time run through all of our classes, all of our technology. So we want to ask our upper school families to use Monday, August the 10th is a great opportunity to make sure that your child has logged into their email account. They have downloaded the Securely certificate. Some of y'all are like, what? Just read the emails that you got from Chris West. It's all in there. And then like check out Google Classroom, some of those types of things. So when we come to school on Tuesday, what we're going to do, we normally have a blue day where you have 4 90-minute classes, and then the next day is a white day. But since school starts on Tuesday and the retreat is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what we're going to do on that Tuesday is we're going to visit all 8 classes. We're going to do blue 1, blue 2, white 1, white 2. So everybody's seen each other. We've given out the syllabus. We've made the seating charts. And so that schedule will come your way. It actually went out to all the seniors today. It most impacts them because of free periods, but Chris West sent that to them. But use August 10th to get up and running. And on the 11th, we will be here to help if you need anything at all. Just as a quick refresher, or for some of our new folks, just a quick overview, what system is for what thing? And again, I'm going to email this to you. But Fax Renweb, just to keep it kind of simple, is for paying bills and checking attendance and grades. All right, paying bills, checking attendance and grades. Google Classroom, parents are not part of Google Classroom. What we really ultimately want to head into with Google Classroom is your child showing you what they have in Google Classroom. They're kind of growing into that. In middle school, we have guardians in Google Classroom, but we grow out of that when we head into high school. So Google Classroom is where the students see their assignments. They can see their to-do list. They turn things in. things about blue and white days, extra help. And then Google Meet, the little video camera thing, is where they will go if they happen to be a virtual student this year. And if one of your kids in this room is going to be one of our virtual students, we have some more information we're going to be sharing with you specifically about how they'll log in. I'll go back to what I said earlier. If your child has a temperature and they stay home, they will know how to log into their class. We do not have to formally switch them to a virtual learner at that point. I had one dad that emailed me and he said, my son has asthma and sometimes things are just blooming and he is sneezing his head off and I'm going to keep him home. But he can keep learning. So he just wanted to make sure that his kid could still log in. I said, oh, sure thing. So we'll do that. But that's what Google Meet is for. And then Naviance specifically is for all things related to the college planning process. So just a quick key for you. The main thing that you need to know is your kids know how to use these items. If they tell you they don't, they're lying to you. So, but all of it is based on that Google username password scenario. Our Academies program, many of you are familiar with this. Many of you, your kids are involved in Academies. In our high school, we have 5 areas that kids can kind of major in during high school. The Academy of the Arts, which has instrumental, vocal, visual, and theater arts. Those are their 4 tracks. The Academy of Business, the Academy of Counseling, Ministry and Education, the Academy of Exercise and Sports Science, and our STEM Academy. What is the whole concept behind the academies? Engage them with things that they're interested in, expose them to a variety of speakers and experiences, and equip them to understand if they want to take the next step into maybe that career field. And so that's something that we do a lot of over the course of high school. So some of your kids are in an academy or they might be taking an elective to learn more about that academy. But we've got more information we're going to share with you about that. And honestly, some of the best people to talk to about those academies, a few slides back, would be those academy directors. And they will point your child to some of our juniors and seniors that are in the academy because those are some great ones to talk to. Summer assignments. How many of you threatened your children with summer reading before you left to come here tonight? All right. Cool. Awesome. I'm sure they'll have it all finished when you get home. All right. So my daughter actually made up summer assignments for our son. I thought that was kind of funny. Now she's done with her summer reading and she's kind of trying to lord it over him. Eli knows he doesn't have to do that. So, but it's all been listed on the school website since May 1st. We've emailed about it. It's been on social media. If your child has a question when they log into the summer learning info, the teacher they should reach out to, their contact is in there. They can reach out to them if they have any questions or they're having any struggles. We're here to help. Dress code, modest and conservative, right? We just want them to come to school dressed to learn and have a great time, and also to learn how to dress for different occasions. The link for dress code is in here. There's no major updates for this year. Our kids generally do a really fantastic job with that. Spring term 2021. How many of you just got your refund for spring term 2020 within the last couple of days? Thank you. Good. Rainwaters, I'm glad that finally got to you. So we had a couple of airlines that were trying to decide if they were going to give the money back or not. Fortunately, they all did. But for right now, we are not making any statements about spring term 2021 probably until January. We think it'd be wise for us to take a little pause. That picture right there just was from spring term 2012. I got to go to Italy as part of that team. And that is the Mamertine prison where it's believed that Paul was in prison when he was writing 2 Timothy 1:7 to Timothy to remind him, don't fear, power, love, and self-control, because people are going to try and tell you all kinds of different things, but stay focused. I ran across that picture the other day, so thanks for letting me use that. But up next, I want to introduce you to somebody that I've had the privilege of knowing for quite a while, actually. I'm not old. It's just that he's getting older. And when I first came to North Cobb Christian, I shared with you all at the beginning that I had the privilege of being the student life director, and Parker Smith here was in the 8th grade when I came to North Cobb Christian School, and had just the real privilege of getting to know him and see him as one of our student leaders. And when our former student life director, Mr. Jonathan Ray, came and let us know he's going to be going full-time with his church, my first phone call was to Parker Smith. I encouraged him that I had already prayed at length about this, and I thought he should probably start praying about it. So I'm super excited that Parker has come to join our staff. There's going to be a lot in general that you'll hear from him about regarding student life, but the most important thing I want him to share with you tonight is related to our retreat that we will be heading out on next week. So Parker Smith, come on down, sir.
Hey there. Like Megan said, my name is Parker Smith, and I graduated from here 10 years ago, so 2010, when I was a lifer at North Cobb Christian. So today, when we were introducing ourselves, I said that this is my first year on staff, but my 14th year in this building. So a pretty big difference there. But I am just really excited to be back. It's crazy. I was just thinking about it last night, and I experienced a lot of life here at this school, but one of the coolest things is I gave my life to the Lord in this room 20 years ago, right somewhere kind of over there, which is crazy because you're probably looking at me like, I don't think he should have been doing anything 20 years ago, but it's just, that's one of the many, many reasons why I'm excited to be back at North Cobb Christian. It's a special place, and student life is something that's important to us here, and for a lot of reasons, and though this year may look different, we want to make sure to stay the course. Although the course may look a little different, maybe a little bumpier, take some twists and turns, but we want to continue to do the things that we normally do, whether that be chapels or advisory groups or retreats or any other outside the classroom type things. We want to continue on with those things. And so the biggest thing that I want to talk about is the retreat, which is only 9 days away. I told some others today that I thought it was a month and a half away, but I realized this morning it was 9 days away. So that sort of thing happens sometimes. But we are really, really excited. One of the biggest things that we've kind of pushed from the beginning is that this retreat is optional for all of our students and for all of our faculty and staff. We totally understand that there are concerns, and we totally respect those things, and we kind of want to communicate that, hey, we are going to go on a retreat. At least we are. Chris is going. A few of us are going, and we'd love your students to come with us if they would feel comfortable with it. And we're really excited for it. Some of the things that we are doing, just if you're maybe still in that place where you're unsure or you're a little uncomfortable, just to kind of give you a few quick highlights of how we are taking extra care for the retreat. The cool thing about where we're going and the place that we're going is Toccoa Baptist Conference Center, which is up in northeast Georgia, and it's a pretty big place, and we're only taking about 300 people, and so it fits a lot more people than we are taking, which is a recipe for social distancing. And so we are getting the opportunity to spread out quite a bit, and so that's been an awesome thing. We are going to be requiring masks for all of our folks. We're doing 2 different meal waves, and so every single meal will only send half of our students and faculty in for each meal. They'll eat, leave, clean up, and we'll take the other half in. Another great thing is in past years we have stacked students in cabins like sardines with 12 students and as many people and stuff as we can fit into a place, top, bottom bunk as possible. And this year we kind of have the opportunity to limit that, and so there will be no more than 3 students in a room, which will kind of help keep those clumps away from one another. And so a lot of things that we are taking extra care for the retreat. But even with all of that stuff, we don't want that to be the story for the retreat. We just have an awesome time planned for our time together. We have Raisa Kubandi, who is with Mount Perrin Church, as well as a band from that church as well that are coming. They've done chapel here a couple of times before, and every time we've mentioned them to students and faculty that they're coming to the retreat, everybody just gets super pumped because they're a fan favorite. And so we're very excited for that, and I just believe that awesome things are in store for that time together. And so I am excited to be back at North Cobb Christian, excited to get to know each of you guys. There's some familiar faces in the crowd, like my mom, for instance, and some others. And just excited to get to know you guys, your students. I've already gotten to know a number of students and have really enjoyed, especially seniors on the rafting trip. One of those people that was grateful I didn't die. And just really enjoying being back and excited to get to know each of you guys. So if you have any questions about the retreat or any other thing student life, feel free to reach out, and I will send them those questions to Chris West, and she will answer them for you.
I know some of you may be curious, how many folks are going on the retreat. I want to let you know, as of this afternoon, we've got about 80% of our high school students are going on the retreat. I think that number might be helpful for you. We also have a very large majority of our faculty and staff who are going to be attending the retreat. Obviously, we take supervision very seriously. We'll also have 2 nurses with us, but Parker's just done an incredible job. When he said 3 people in a room, no one will be sharing a bed. That's kind of a key piece of this. But because normally the boys, not only do they not share a bed, but then none of them sleep in the bed and they all sleep on the floor. But Parker has some great detailed info that when I send out the slides tomorrow morning, his retreat information and then just a form that we need filled out will go out with that tomorrow. But just really want to encourage you. It's a special time. And if you're at all interested, really want to encourage you to send your kid. If you're at all hesitant, this would be the year to keep them home. I'm so grateful, Michael and Matthew, that are holding us together tonight. We're going to be live streaming the sessions. And so students who don't go, want to really encourage them to join us online. Our families, even if you send your kids, join in and join us for those times. At this time, I'd like to invite some of our upper school parents, John and Dee Moore. They are the parents of Brooke, who is in the 10th grade. And I'll just have to say, my daughter really looks up to Brooke. And even in the quarantine, Brooke reached out to Emma, and she was checking on her just to see how she was doing and everything. Texted her every once in a while, see how they're doing. And the other night at dinner, she said this again. She said, Mom, I really wish I was going in 7th grade instead of 6th grade. Why? Well, if I was going into 7th grade, then Brooke's senior year, I'd be a freshman and we could be on the basketball team together. So anyways, that's the kind of investment that Brooke has made in my daughter's life. And I think y'all are pretty awesome too. You must be doing something right. So they're going to talk with us about the annual fund.
Thank you, Megan. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dee Moore, and I'm here with my wonderful husband, John Moore. And we are very honored to be the chairs for the annual Eagle Fund this year. As Megan mentioned, our daughter, Brooke Moore, started here in kindergarten, so she has literally grown up in these halls. And it's just been an amazing experience, an amazing opportunity to see her grow up. She, as I said, started when she was 5, and now she's taller than both of us, I believe. Exactly. But this is definitely a special place. It's a wonderful school. I can't tell you all the amazing friends Brooke has had since kindergarten. I'm looking out into the audience, and I see families now and parents that started this kindergarten journey with us and are still on the journey. We have families, and we've become parts of everyone's family, and we vacation together. We just are a part of one another's lives, and it's just been a great opportunity for Brooke to grow up in a Christ-centered environment under the auspices of wonderful teachers, dedicated, trusted friends, faculty and staff members, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So we've had the opportunity to give to the annual fund for 10 years now, and we would encourage you all to do the same. It's a wonderful project. We have been able to have some major accomplishments here at the school as a result of it. John's going to give some more details on it, but thank you for whatever you can contribute. It's not the amount, it's the fact that you have the heart to do so.
Okay, now it's my turn. Let's talk about the annual fund. Okay, so I'm truly happy to be here talking about the annual fund. The annual fund is, when you think about it, is the #1 fundraiser that this school offers, right? It's a very important fund. And you think, when you think about the annual fund, what is it for some of the newer parents who are here? For those of us who have had kids here for a while, we kind of know what the annual fund is. But the annual fund really helps narrow the gap between the amount of money that we pay for tuition, which doesn't cover the entire cost of what it costs to educate our kids, all right? So there's a gap between the total cost and the tuition costs, and that the annual fund helps to minimize that a little bit, all right? My wife and I, we're big supporters of the athletic program, and I love to go to the football games and basketball games and root the Eagles on. I always talk about soar, Eagles soar, to help them reach new heights, And I think about that, the annual fund as being something that will help the school reach new heights. Will help the school improve the environment that our students learn in, the environment that our students flourish in as well. And the annual fund has really provided a lot of amazing things for the school. I would say some of the things would be over the last couple of years, the improved school security measures we have here. We have the key cards, we have the gates put up, a new middle and lower school science lab, as well as new science lab equipment. It helped fund the acquisition of and upgrades to the Moving Forward building that Ms. Strange talked about before, right? Purchased additional classroom technology, purchased fine arts equipment, and of course helped with student financial aid. So the big question is, where does the money go this year? Okay, the monies for this year, for the annual fund, will go to help build out that big building that we're seeing built on the campus, right? The upper school building is going to help furnish that. That building is going to be furnished with state-of-the-art equipment, and this fund will help us get that. It looks amazing on the outside. It's going to look amazing on the inside. All right. Along with the building out of the upper school building, some of the funds will also be used for the student financial aid. All right. So there's always an ask. What is the ask? The ask is to participate, to really think about participating and contributing to the annual fund. Participation at any level is vital, as Dee said. Any amount helps. Not only does it help ensure that we continue to provide exceptional opportunities for our kids, but it also helps leverage community and foundation support. When you go in and ask for community support for something you're trying to get done, the first thing they want to know is, okay, what are you doing for yourself? So we can point to the annual fund and say, okay, well, we raised X amount of money to help us do whatever it is we're trying to get you to help us do, right? So I would say that in closing, throughout each school year, parents, they're presented with and encouraged to participate in a variety of opportunities at the school. And while all opportunities are important, sometimes we're asked to participate and volunteer our time, or maybe it's a special talent we have, all right? But this opportunity to give to the annual fund is truly the foremost opportunity that we ask our parents to participate in. So, once again, we will be holding a parent participation challenge the last 2 weeks at the end of August, which will be here before you know it, right? So please begin considering how you may be able to participate in the annual fund. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Cool. And at this time, I'd like to invite our head of school, Mr. Todd Klingman, to come down. And I would encourage you guys, as you have opportunity, to be praying for him. That's a pretty big mantle that he carries, leading us and serving us. And he is also an upper school parent. So for you new folks, if you have any questions, you can ask him. He knows all the answers. And then after Mr. Klingman, we'll do a little Q&A.
Well, just a big thanks to Megan for her leadership in our upper school and her team. So much has gone into preparation for every school year, but especially this year. We've been hard at it really since we left in mid-March to begin to prepare for as normal of a year as we can have. And one thing everybody can do, whether you're watching on the live stream or here in the gym, let's just be prayerful that we can keep this year going. I'm praying selfishly and unselfishly, I hope. Really probably more the unselfish part. But with the guy that has 3 seniors, man, we want to have a good senior year. And I've got two girls that play volleyball and my son that plays baseball, and they're involved in so many things here. And so Megan's already touched on the things you can do to help us, but let's not come to campus sick. Let's keep all those lines clearly drawn and encourage your kids to just be smart and, be smart with washing their hands and not touching their face and wearing their mask when they need to and staying apart when they can, and to try to keep our bubble as clean as possible. That'd be a big help, and we just pray for a great school year. But kids need to be together. Kids need to be together. They need some normalcy. They need to be back in the classroom. They need to see their friends. They need to see their teachers. And we're just going to navigate this a step at a time, and we're just praying for God's wisdom and discernment as we do that. I'll be real brief in closing, but I just really want to celebrate, as you've heard about already, the upper school building. We are 100% on time to finish that building in about 60 days, and that'll give us a few weeks to really settle into it. We're blessed so greatly to be building that building 100% debt-free. And the effort that you just heard John and Dee talk about is all related to the furniture we're going to put in the building. And so a lot of our efforts this fall, whether it's annual fund or our benefit dinner coming up, will be to put things in that building, whether it's in the makerspace, robotics lab, classroom furniture, that we can all be proud of. And so that's about a 40,000 square foot building, and we're going to be able to occupy that in January, and it's going to be a massive addition to our upper school, and it's going to do a lot of great things for our lower school and middle school kids as well. Just this afternoon, you probably haven't seen it yet, there's a wonderful email that lays out our brand new food service program. For the first time in our history, we've partnered with a third-party organization called Pedestal Foods, and they will be providing all of our breakfast, lunch, snacks, and some on-campus catering. And so we're really excited about the options and the quality that kids will be able to partake in with Pedestal Foods. Another really important endeavor for us this year is over more than a decade now, we have had different periods of time where we've been very active and very public, and then there's been other times we've been more under the radar with our unity and diversity effort. But with everything going on in the world, we feel like this is a wonderful time to make sure that that's an active and visible effort. And so you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. We've got a very wonderful group of parents and staff that have already begun to work, a dozen strong, and we'll be soliciting input from lots of our constituents, and at some point it'll be very important for our middle school and high school kids to be involved in that as well. So look for more information on our unity and diversity effort. And I just want to close with this picture on the screen of a mask. I hope Michael's got it back there. When you laugh, I'll know it's up there. I hope you'll laugh. Please find it funny. But I have to say, to some degree, while all the COVID stuff is important, I'm kind of tired of talking about COVID. So my reminder to all of us as we leave tonight is let's go back to talking about the mission of North Cobb Christian School. And the mission of our school is, number one, out of the gate, we're committed to Jesus Christ, because that's from whence our strength comes. And what we like to do and what we want to strive to do as a school is to teach kids to see this world through the lens of Scripture. We want to challenge them intellectually. We want to challenge them physically. We want to challenge them emotionally, all in an appropriate way. But ultimately, as we nurture them through those challenges, we hope that they can move along the pendulum in realizing their potential, that ultimately the final phrase of our mission is to impact the world for Christ. And I think during the days in which we live, whether it's COVID or racial tension or whatever else goes on, we have an unbelievable opportunity at this particular point in time as a group of 900 students and almost 200 faculty and staff members and a couple thousand parents to be an ever-present light and salt in this world more than we ever have been. And so as we navigate this school year and we have so many conversations about current events, let's not forget about the ultimate mission that we've been given, which is to see kids come to know the Lord as their Savior and that they could grow in their relationship with Him. Some people ask at times, are you guys more of a Christian school or are you more of an academic school? As if they're two separate things. We call it the two tasks, the task for the heart and the task, or the battle for the heart and the battle for the mind. It's the same battle. And so we wage that battle together. We think there's no more powerful partnership than the home in conjunction with the church and the school. And as we've reminded our faculty this week, they're with us when they're awake more than they're with you. And so what we do together in partnership is so very important. So we'll covet your prayers this year. We'll covet your encouragement. As Megan said, please be patient with us as we unfold the beginning days of this school year. There's lots of new things we're doing with car line and temperature taking and technology, and we'll navigate it all together, and we'll settle into a real nice new normal, probably just a couple days in. And be very graceful and patient with your teachers. As you can imagine, there's just a lot of things on their hearts and minds as we navigate these days together. So let me close our time in prayer, and appreciate you being here in person, and for those of you that are online. Let's pray together. God, thank you for your Son most of all. As we pause in the busyness of life, our mind turns to next Tuesday, when we'll have scores and scores of students arrive for their first day of school for the 2021 school year. We give this year to you as moms and dads, as administrators, as teachers, as counselors. We just want to ask that you would bless this school year. Lord, we are mindful that in the days that we live, hearts are probably more attuned to the seeds of the gospel. And we pray that you would allow those seeds to be harvested, whether it's in a classroom or on the retreat or on a school bus ride back from a football game, whatever the case may be. I hope we will be consumed with the questions that we discussed earlier tonight. Where have we come from? Where are we now? Who are we? Where are we going? What's our purpose? And Lord, we know that life is but a vapor, and I pray that we would be convicted and in partnership with using our lives and challenging our kids to use their lives in a way that would make a difference. Thank you so much for this group of parents and this group of faculty and staff, and just bless our school year. We give it to you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
And then we always just like to take an opportunity at the end of parent orientation just to do a quick Q&A just for any questions that you might have this evening. I always ask people to filter that through. Is this a question for the good of the group? If it's a question that's super specific to your child or to your family, I will be hanging around up here and would love to chat afterwards. But if you just have some general questions, we'd love to entertain those. If you would like to take a moment to do that. I do know earlier somebody was wondering how many students did end up choosing virtual learning for this year. I think that's helpful for you guys to know. For the upper school, that number stands at 9 that have chosen virtual learning, and a couple of those have already asked me, hey, can we switch back? Because all of a sudden we're seeing where this is going. And totally cool. Everybody needs to choose what fits them. But do we have any questions that we could address maybe this evening while we're here? Yes, ma'am. Yes, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that because I know Emily's going to have a blast on the retreat, but we want to make sure she has what she needs. So tomorrow morning, when I send this email that had the slides for you to reference, we have an email from Parker that is going to have retreat details, including the packing list, and just a little form that we need filled out just to confirm t-shirt sizes and that sort of thing. So we'll send that out tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, Parker can answer all of them. Yes, about any of the things. So yes, anybody else, any questions? Fantastic. Thanks for coming. Hey, and you guys were one of the first groups that got to try out the new chairs in the gym. So I hope you enjoyed them. Thank you for coming. We'll be up here if you need anything. We're going to have a great year. Thanks again.